Subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell icon for the latest film interviews, features, and recommendations on the movies that matter.
Mithoon, it's good to see you. How are you, Mithoon? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's been a phase of learning, I think, for all of us.
Yeah.
So, trying to take it positively.
You know, I feel like since you mentioned phase of learning, I feel like we really should start by talking about your score for Khuda Hafiz. This is, of course, the film that just dropped a few days ago on Disney Hotstar, and you composed this entire score. It's got some lovely songs. I particularly love the title song, which Vishal Dadlani has sung, and also Jaan Ban Gaye, which Vishal Mishra has sung, I think.
Yep.
You composed this entire album under lockdown from home. Is that true?
That is true, Rajeev, because I had actually signed this film somewhere around last year. And because director Farooq Kabir wanted me to do the whole score. So in that case, see, whenever I do singles, like I've done a lot of singles for films which have done extremely well. But when I do a full score, in that case, I first start writing themes. And we sketch out the emotional graph of the entire film. So I immediately don't get to recording. And that's what I did. We kind of, because Farooq wanted me on board like a co-narrator. And I wrote those themes down. I gave him some scratches for him to travel and, for his recce and for his shoot. But we hadn't recorded anything per se. And then, unfortunately, the lockdown happened. And I thought the film will get pushed to post-Diwali because of circumstances. But I was told the film's going on OTT and I had 30 days to put a master together of 6 tracks on the soundtrack. My first reaction was like, nahi ho payega ye, kyunki hoga nahi hum log. We've got so many norms to follow, mil nahi payenge, kuch nahi ho payega. But then I had a chat with Farooq and, I just thought, Rajeev, we talk of as artists giving out a message of hope. If the policemen, the doctors, the authorities can put themselves on the line and risk their life, why can't we do this? Why can't we try something new? And I had a team meeting. I spoke to my singers. Everybody was anyways very hungry to join back to work, right? For creative reasons. So we just made it happen.
But how does it work logistically? I mean, all of you were apart. You all didn't get into one studio, right? Sonu is in Dubai. Vishal is in his farm in near Pune. Vishal Mishra is somewhere else. You had another, I think Javed Ali is in Delhi. You had one singer in Arizona. I mean, how did it all come together? What did it take logistically?
I think it takes what my job is supposed to be over the years, which is also something which many people still haven't completely understood, the job of a music director. For me, my job is I have to be clear, like the term music director comes from Broadway, who actually brings various emotions in front through music and through singing and performance. So I had to be at the helm of affairs, take charge of how I want, because my singer can't really hear. Many of the singers were very surprised to hear the production because they hadn't heard the final tracks. So the only reference point was me. So that it was a good test for me also to do my job properly, to understand. Like if I was working with a music producer out of Arizona, and he could not hear the final vocals over here, and I exactly was the link of what expression has to be done in which particular way. I recorded with a singer called Ahmed Al Hajra from LA, an Arabic vocalist. So I exactly what kind of projection should it be? What kind of a pitch should he take? Where should the expression die down? Where should it rise? It was completely on my reaction.
Does the whole process take longer than usual?
It does, because there's a lot of back and forth which happens. We also had to develop, new ways of communication creatively. I must give credit to the great mix engineer Eric Pillai, the veteran of our industry. He came up with the suggestion of the software called Session Wire, where we create a virtual studio online, where my singers could rehearse with me and I could hear their takes real time in HD quality. So these kind of things took time to adapt to. We gradually got there.
At this point, Mithoon, I have to ask you to give us a few lines from one of the two songs. They're both very popular currently. Everyone's humming them. Give us a few lines from either the title track or Jaan Ban Gaye.
Okay, so I'll do a little bit of the title track, which is written by Saeed Kadri and sung by Vishal Dadlani. I really like the song a lot because I think it brings that part of an era which I've grown up listening to, where singing songs was celebration. Like when I say ki pal ये बीत जाएगा, प्यार लौट आएगा, वक्त का बहता ये दरिया फिर किनारे लाएगा, याद रखना मुझको मोहसिन, तब तलक खुदा हाफिज, ये जुदाइयां है कुछ दिन, तब तलक खुदा हाफिज, खुदा हाफिज.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you. Mithun, you had a really big chart buster before coronavirus happened. You know, just before coronavirus happened. Chal Ghar Chale from Malang had really caught everyone's imagination. It was a song that everyone was humming. It was such a wonderful song, and it became this big, massive hit. Now, that song was composed and it's placed in the film in a romantic scenario. And to be fair, you know, most of Hindi film music is sort of, you know, programmed for romantic situations. You know, you've had such great success with your romantic songs, whether it's Tum Hi Ho from Aashiki 2, you know, whether it's Hamdard from Ek Villain, which is one of my favorites, and Tujhe Kitna Chahne Lage from Kabir Singh. How do you find new ways to compose for a romantic situation?
I think, Rajeev, it's about, you know, different people. That's why I think film music in particularly is very, very important to do it with a bouncing board like a good director.
Right.
Because every director has his own way of looking at his love story. You know, so when I work with you spoke of Chal Ghar Chale, when I work with a director like Mohit Suri, so he comes from a place in life where he has certain values, he has certain mindsets, he has certain things in life which he really values a lot, and for him that probably the thera or probably the maturity, you know, or the silence is something that he really values in life, and that reflects back in my musical conversation with him.
Right.
Me and Mohit, we always talk. He calls it the quintessential Mithoon pause. So whenever I do a song with him, he will always say, you'll always come to a point and you'll pause and the song freezes there. You know, whether it is even if you see तुझसे जुदा अगर हो जाएंगे तो खुद से ही हो जाएंगे जुदा क्योंकि तुम, so you know, or even in Banjara, so which I don't do it intently, but I think as we converse, I think I react to how the director, what his POV is, you know, and how he sees the world, how he sees the story. Similarly, like a lot of people told me that Jaan Ban Gaye from Khuda Hafiz, they told me it doesn't sound like a Mithoon song. I said, why? They told me because it sounds very happy. So I was like, what's that supposed to mean? But it just goes to say that Farooq, you know, he wanted to celebrate that joy because it's the only bright moment in the film. And he wanted me to peak that celebration so that the contrast can come out very beautifully as the film follows.
Correct.
So I react a lot to my directors and their points of view, and that really brings out the spectrum, I think.
Mithoon, so many composers refuse to be a guest composer on an album. They refuse to do just the one track or two tracks. They insist that it has to be the entire album or nothing. That's not a condition that you put on your filmmakers.
Yeah, that's not something, because if you see Rajeev, from the beginning of my career, I've got probably the greatest success in my shared albums. Whether it was Basik Pal, if you talk of Anwar, if you talk of Murder 2, Jism 2, Kabir Singh last year. So, but I just have this much. I think it's very important on the director, Rajeev. If the director doesn't know, somebody was asking me when there are multiple composers, how do you maintain the tonality of the album? And my answer was that if the director knows why is he working with every composer for what reason.
Correct.
You know, I refuse to be a part of any compilation where I'm being put like a assortment of composers on the paper. I don't relate to that scenario. But if a director comes to me saying that, Mithoon, I think this emotion is really down your alley and I want to work with you for this particular song. And if there is transparency about that, I'm happy. At the same time, there are directors like Farooq Kabir or Karan Malhotra with whom I'm working now, who are very keen that they want one composer to do the entire album. So I'm happy in that scenario as well.
At this point, give us a few lines from any one of your collaborations with Mohit, since those are the ones that people seem to love the most. Maybe Chal Ghar Chale?
Okay, let's do. अब थक चुके है ये कदम, चल घर चले मेरे हमदम, होंगे जुदा ना जब तक है दम, चल घर चले मेरे हमदम, ताउम्र प्यार ना होगा कम, चल घर चले मेरे हमदम, मेरे रहो तुम और ते हम, चल घर चले मेरे हमदम.
Lovely. That is a beautiful song. Mithun, you also write the lyrics for your own songs, for many of your own songs. Does that give you more control on the final output? Does that allow you to put a stronger sort of stamp, a very individual stamp on how the song will sound and feel when it's ready?
It's a good question. It's very interesting. I've never thought of it that way. I'll say this, Rajeev, that for me, it's always come very naturally because I always think of a song as a thought. You know, it's always a conversation for me. And after that, everything follows, the melody, the poetry. So even the songs I ended up writing, I never intended to be a songwriter, you know, whether I wrote Tumi Ho. I was always wanting another poet's perspective on that song, but ultimately it was Mohit Suri's conviction that we went with my lyrics. But that's because I see it as a marriage. When I see "Kyunki tum hi ho," the way the words are married to the melody, that's something of how I express. So whether it's "Tujhe kitna," so the way I've used the word "Tujhe kitna," the way I've used that word, these elements are very, very important in expressing how the syllable of the word, how the phonetic comes out.
Yeah.
So I I express that way, but at the same time, you know, I don't think my identity is limited only to that. Even when I work with like a veteran poet like Saeed Qadri, like the way we've done the Khuda Hafiz title track, I think that also is equally very, very, you know, it has my imprint all over it. Right. So I'm very open to it both ways.
You know, there's been a lot of conversation recently, Mithoon, about the non-creative people, you know, sort of dictating or interfering in the creation of music. I'm talking about studios and the music barons and the, you know, and film producers even. I mean, they're not the creators of the music, and yet they want to have their say in terms of who the singer should be, what the words should be, what the hook should be. How do you deal with that? How do you keep the non-creative people at an arm's length? Because those should be decisions that the creators should be taking. That should be a decision that the composer should be taking.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is also a very basic discussion for me, Rajeev. I think, as you rightly said, the people who have been entrusted the job, they are the ones. You give a job to somebody, you let the man do his job.
Correct.
And I think it also matters from person to person about how you approach your job. And I think I've been blessed that way, that I've always got those kind of people who've let me do what I want to do, Rajeev. In fact, I think, many of you know, these conversations which happen in fact, many of my songs are templates that are played. You know, this is how it should be, or that is how it should be. So I see it as a blessing that I'm getting to do what I want to do. Yes, in film music, the director is very, very important, as we spoke a couple of questions back.
Yeah.
You know, he may know, because say, for example, while casting a song, you know, I may probably know who can sing my song the best, but he knows his character better. Like when I was discussing with Farooq, when we were taking a call on Vishal Dadlani's voice, you know, Farooq was very, very, very keen that we work with Vishal, because when we jammed with Vishal, he told me that he's bringing out the edge and the raw energy of Sameer so well, that this is how I want Sameer to, even though it's not a lip sync song, but this is how I want his angst to sound. So these kind of discussions are great, I think, for a studio. But anything that comes outside this and it comes with other outside perspectives is a complete no-no.
But is there a creative bankruptcy in film music, Mithun? Do you believe that with just the pressure on composers to deliver remixes continuously, with the pressure to deliver songs that are chart busters, songs, I'm constantly hearing composers say that we're being asked for songs which must hook the audience in 10 seconds. I mean, with those kind of pressures, does it feel like there is a sort of creative bankruptcy and that there is an immense pressure? And how do you keep that pressure aside? Because I know that your songs are not only great melodies, but they're also chart busters. So I would imagine that you're striking that balance. But do you feel like there is a stagnancy that's set in?
I think I definitely don't think there's a creative bankruptcy in terms of from the creative side, because I know there are some brilliant composers in our fraternity. I meet a lot of musicians, I meet a lot of upcoming composers, and I see a lot of potential there. There could be a bankruptcy at some point in the vision, which is not the responsibility of the creative side. That comes from the presenting side. Maybe they should be open to think beyond templates. And that's why I think Kabir Singh, Rajeev, the soundtrack came at a very, very important time last year. Because when so many questions were being raised and there was so much of conversation happening about creative flow in the fraternity, here comes an album with complete original music, created based on the storyline, backed by probably one of the biggest labels in the country, the biggest producers, everything good about it, and the audience gives it a full thumbs up. So it shows that the fraternity also has some people in place, and the audience is completely embracing them. That's a very, very important statement, I think.
How do you deal with the pressure of, how do you strike that balance between creating music that has integrity and that comes from a place of purity which you want to achieve, but also that it needs to be a chart buster, it needs to be an instant chart buster?
I appreciate your question, Rajeev, but I've actually never seen music that way. I've never intended to create a chartbuster. Everything in my life has been a miracle. Right from Tere Bin, I still remember when I did Tere Bin and the song released, and I was sitting in my living room. I was all of 20 years old, and I happened to hear an auto pass down my building, and the song was playing in it. And I was like, really? Are people listening to my song? And then I realized it's becoming a so-called, as you said, chartbuster. When I did the music of Anwar, you won't believe me, I was handing over the master to Saregama HMB, who released the music. And when I gave them the master, back then we used to have it on DVDs.
Correct.
When I gave him the master, you believe me, I was very insecure, Rajeev. I said, this album is not going to work. Because I've gone too creative in this. I've flown because I made a song like Maula Mere Maula, which is 7 minutes long.
What a song that was. What a song that is, yeah.
I did Tose Nana Lage, which was 9.5 minutes long.
Correct.
And I've used my alaps, I've used my sargams, I've creatively indulged to no extent. And then suddenly I realized that, listen, what you're saying, right? I have an audience to win, and so-called the 10-second theories. I was like, I've indulged too much, but anyways, now it's too late. I gave it. I said, people will probably forgive me.
Correct.
And then you see this, Rajeev, people have made that probably the biggest album I've ever done. And those songs are resonating till today. So you talk of sincerity, you talk of purity. I think nothing can be more pure to me than the way I've done the music of Anwar. And yet it's got the biggest numbers, the biggest acceptance. So how do you answer something like this?
Right. So you're saying that the purity travels in that sense, the integrity
travels like nothing else, according to me.
I read an interview of yours, Mithoon, in which you said something very interesting. You acknowledged the fact that you didn't have a major struggle to get into the business, because of course you acknowledge that you come from a family which is your third generation music third generation music performer. You spoke about the fact that the struggle wasn't to get the foot in the door, but the struggle was to arrive at what you wanted to say through your music. You struggled to convey emotions that at the age of 19 you hadn't even experienced until then. What helped you find your voice then at that point?
I think being honest to yourself, as I answered in the last question, I had a lot of ideas. My father told me, Rajeev, that I can teach you how to say it. I can, I can brush up your skills. I can help you hone your piano playing skills. I can give you techniques of singing and how to sing better. But once those tools are ready, what are you going to do with it is your problem, not mine. So I think it's very important for an artist, for a composer, to have a creative point of view, to have his worldview through music. And I spent a lot of time understanding that how should my music sound. A lot of people could not actually believe that I come from the teaching of my father's theories, because my music sounds so different. If you listen to his arrangements, he did music arrangements for Ashiki 1, Sadak, Dil Hai Ke Manda Nahi, some of the biggest scores back then. And my music sounded so different from what probably he had done. There were technicians who worked with him, and they worked with me also, and they say ki you are nothing like how Naresh ji used to work, which I think is a very big compliment, because for me to create my own sound, it only came from trying to understand my own, my own expression. This is how I like. If I like a pad, when I did the Basikpal title song with KK, I put in a lot of floaty elements in the track. I put a lot of pads, and I still remember the first interlude is just 8 bars of a riff. It's just one riff. And I was talking to one musician back at that point of time, and he was like, Mithoon, aren't we going to add iske upar something? I said, no, I like it. I like the emptiness. And he was like, ऐसा नहीं होता. I said, मेरे गाने में ऐसा ही होगा. I'm sure he was very well meaning.
Correct.
But it's about keeping things the way you want to say. I think that's when individuality comes out.
You also don't do reality shows. You barely do even live shows. You don't do too many. I mean, compared to the other guys, you do much fewer. Is it hard to say no to the frills that come with these things? The fame, the popularity, being on television, everyone knowing, what you look like, everyone knowing, being able to identify you, the big bucks that these things inevitably involve. How does one say no to those things when one is in the same business?
I think it matters on your priorities in life, Rajeev. I think all these things create an issue in life because our priorities are not in place. And that's when the confusion comes. But I think if your priorities are in place, and if you're clear about what are you looking for in life, these decisions are very, very simple. So there are certain television shows that I don't connect with. I don't connect with the format, especially with the way music is portrayed on them. I don't relate to it at all. And I'm not in a position to point fingers. It's not my job to do that. But I can make a choice of not being a part of it. Or, I have been offered a few, not too many also, to be honest. I've been offered a few, but I haven't related to the concept of how music is portrayed, because I see music as a form of worship, Rajeev. I see it as a form of dignity. There are very few things in life which uphold human dignity today, and music is one of them.
Yeah.
And if we make that also what it's not meant to be, it'll be a very sad thing. So I'm happy doing what I'm doing, and as far as the big bucks are concerned, I do it. I make it in my film music.
Right, as you should. Yeah. You're composing the entire score for Shamshera, which is Karan Malhotra's film, which stars Ranbir Kapoor, and it's a dacoit film set in the 19th century. You've said it's your first period film. What can one expect? What sound can we expect? And what's that whole preparation been like?
The preparation has basically been, I think Karan he has another energy altogether. He's brought an energy in the studio which I've never experienced before. He's very spontaneous, he's very impulsive, and he loves his music. And he's the kind of I think music lover who will sing his heart out in the studio, not caring about what, that there are 10 musicians sitting in front of him, and he will not care to be judged, because he comes from so much honesty and he loves his music. So that spontaneity is kind of reflected on me also, and it's brought out another energy altogether. And then obviously we are catering to another era in music. So in terms of soundscape, in terms of instrumentation, it's not the way I could do any of my contemporary soundtracks.
Right.
So we've tried to enter another alley altogether. So I can't say much right now. It's up to people, when they listen to it and what they feel about it.
Finally, Mithun, this year has been one of such uncertainty and such, these are strange times. What are you hoping for? What is the next big goal? What are you hoping the next year will be? Once one can go back to perhaps some semblance of normalcy in the way that one works.
I think in my mind, priority is, Rajeev, that I think economically the way we've been hit and the way people are telling, and especially for, the people of the country, like if you see, actually, you've seen videos of people struggling. I mean, I don't think there can ever be normalcy coming back until unless every human life is not valued. Every family is not covered. Otherwise, I think, how can even we be artists? We can't talk of expression and human values sitting in an AC studio while thinking, things will get back just because it's normal for me. So I think that reaching out element as a society and as people is very, very important. I think that's something that should be encouraged a lot more. That's the more normalcy that is needed more than anything else. Yeah. And once that happens, once everyone feels covered, reached out to, I think then we can actually talk of normalcy. Before that, there's going to be no normalcy.
That's so true, and those are lovely words to actually live by. You're right. How do you talk about normalcy till every person is safe and healthy and create a better world? In a sense.
Masses have really been hit, and I'm sure you know more than me, Rajeev, because you're right out there. And seeing it, I don't think we as a people can have any normalcy till that doesn't happen. And I think we should just do as much as we can.
Does that fuel your creativity in any way? Does that inspire your music in any way these times?
I think it's difficult to say that way because I can't really, look at something and, get fuel out of it. Look at something disturbing or something painful and look at it as, inspiration for a piece of art that I could see professionally. I don't relate to it that way. Yeah. But I think being human and, being a human being and being alive to that is ultimately important in every element, not only professionally, but in every decision of your life, whatever you take, even whatever you do, the way you treat your people around you, your own staff, your own extended family. I think everywhere that artistic side should come out, then it makes sense.
Well, I can see where the sensitivity in the music comes from, Mithoon. This was lovely chatting with you. Thank you. All the best. I'm not going to let you go without giving us a few lines from that song from Kabir Singh, which I love so much. Give us a few lines. It's a beautiful song.
Dil ka darya beh hi gaya, ishq ibadat ban hi gaya, khud ko mujhe tu saap de, meri zarurat तू बन गया, बात दिल की नजरों ने की, सच कह रहा तेरी कसम, तेरे बिन हम न लेंगे एक भी दम, तुझे कितना चाहने लगे हम, तेरे साथ हो जाएंगे खत्म, तुझे कितना चाहने लगे हम.
What a beautiful song. Thank you so much, Mithoon. Thank you for this conversation. Thank you for allowing us a sense of understanding how you work, what inspires you. All the best. Looking forward to many more chartbusters and songs with soul. I think that's what you've given us, and looking forward to lots more of that. Thank you, Mithoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajeev. You take care and stay safe.
Thank you so much. This was lovely. All the best, Mithoon. Thank you.